Assalamu alaikum, welcome, peace be upon you. We'll begin with a short prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillahi wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. We begin in the name of God, most merciful, most kind. All praise belongs to God, and peace and blessings be upon the messenger of God. Alright guys, so we're going to go through Irving Mayor Beth Van Duyne's arguments in her defending against radical Islamic terrorism speech thing here. We're going to see if what she claims and says is accurate or not.
I'm not an expert in radical Islam. I am not anti-Muslim. I was asked to come speak today to tell you about my experience as mayor with an Islamic tribunal that was created in our community. I am not endorsing any other speaker. In fact, many of you I just met. But I think it's important as mayor that we give our experiences and we ask for help when we need them. On February 2nd of 2015, so almost 2 years to date, there was a CBS 11 video that talked about North Texas being the home to the first Islamic tribunal. Quote, "It is how Muslims settle disputes in many countries in the Middle East. But now North Texas is home to what is believed to be the first official Islamic tribunal that follows Sharia law." And this was a CBS News piece. This was February 2nd. Literally within 3 days, it went from the first Sharia law court being set up in Irving to Irving establishes the first Sharia law court. Now you can see the difference in those two messages.
Okay, so what she's talking about is apparently a chain email versus this website on CBS 11. So firstly, let's start with the CBS 11 article, North Texas home to first Islamic tribunal in the U.S. Okay, I'm not sure who the author of this is here. I don't see any authorship, like a name. All right. Anyways, so it says Irving, CBS 11 News. Okay, I'm not sure why it says Irving in particular, but cool, I guess. "It is how Muslims settle disputes in many countries in the Middle East," like she quoted. "But now North Texas is home to what is believed to be the first official Islamic tribunal that follows Sharia law." Of course, she neglected to read the entire rest of the article, which handles all kinds of misconceptions about the tribunal. She just ignored all of that and just read the beginning to make it sound as damning as possible on the Muslims, right? And here's Imam Mujahid Bakhash. Okay, now keep in mind, he can communicate in English, but his English isn't perfect. Let's just keep that in mind. He says, "So it's in their mind the misconception about what they see through the media is that Sharia means cut the head, chop the heads, cut the hands, and we are not doing that," he says, one of the tribunal judges. "Him and 3 other judges make up the tribunal. We have no authority to force anybody or to make it binding upon if they don't like it or don't accept it," says Bakhash. "Guided by the Muslim religious moral code known as Sharia, the judges are offering up their services to handle cases involving divorce, business problems, and other disputes among the community. There are no disputes at all because we deal with just fix and deal with the religious part." Okay, so they just fix and deal with the religious part. We cannot deal with anything else, even in the civil law, okay? They said they do not handle criminal accusations, child support, custody battles, or any transfer of assets, okay? People are concerned that there are conflicts between Sharia law and state law or whatever else. So that's an important area we need to watch, okay, says John DeGroot. All right. And he says he sees parallels to his out-of-court mediations. If it's non-binding and simply helps people guide their way through the dispute, all the better, he says. Bakhash said state and federal law will always take precedent. It is why the judges have made it the first article in the Islamic Tribunal's constitution. We are not here to invade the White House or invade Austin. We are here to humble Austin, meaning like capital of Texas. We are humble and want to settle a problem between Muslims, said Bakhash. Okay, District Attorney Susan Hawk did not want to comment. Okay, cool. So apparently, I'm not even sure what she was talking about at first, but apparently there's some sort of like Islamophobic chain email, maybe some kind of like, Breitbart style website or something that Muslims attempted to establish the first Islamic Sharia court inside the United States in the town of Irving, Texas. Dun, dun, dun. Right? Okay. You can go ahead and read this yourself. But like she says, Sharia law court was not approved or enacted by the city of Irving. Recently, there have been rumors suggesting that the city of Irving has somehow condoned, approved, or enacted the implementation of a Sharia law court in our city. Let me be clear, neither the city of Irving or elected officials or any city staff anything to do with the decision of the mosque that has been identified as starting a Sharia court. Okay. I'm still curious how exactly it became Irving, but they say this is false in the PolitiFact meter. Okay, and not to mention the fact that the office of this tribunal is actually in Dallas anyways. It's not even Irving, but we'll get to that later.
Within 3 days, all of a sudden, we were getting emails, we were getting phone calls to City Hall. I was getting text messages because this was on the radio programs, that this was being created in Irving and it was following Sharia law.
Okay, so in that case, your qualms are not with Muslims, your qualms are with the media and with lying Islamophobes. Okay, in no way is the Muslim community to blame for this, for fake news and for Islamophobic email chains and for people lying against you and atheists and Christians harassing you over this issue. This is not in any way a fault of the Muslim community. The Muslim community are the victims here. So why are we attacking the victims?
I had a very small Facebook following, but I took to my Facebook following and I posted what I thought was a very well put together message that we understand there's a rumor of a court. We're looking into it. We're going to find out what's going on. If we find that there are fundamental violations of basic rights, we'll get down to the bottom of it. But we're talking to our state officials to make sure that it's clarified what is necessary and what rights are. And that I, as an elected official, as you are all elected officials, we support to preserve and defend the constitutional rights as provided by the state laws of Texas and the Constitution. That was it. You would have thought that from the response of that post, that it was the most radical thing you'd ever seen. The media firestorm as a response to that simple statement was immediate, it was aggressive, and it was absolutely misleading.
All right, again, so the media firestorm, and what does that have to do with Muslims? Are Muslims responsible for what the media says?
I went to the website, which is the Islamictribunal.org website, to find out for myself firsthand what the information was in the public, what started this whole news story to begin with. And what I found on their website was that the 4 imams who had created this, who were the head of this court.
So she intentionally used the term court here when in fact it's a tribunal just to make it sound scary.
Called themselves judges and referred to themselves as attorneys on the website. Now, none of them had a JD, none of them were recognized by the State Bar of Texas, nor were they licensed. And yet, on their public website, Islamictribunal.org, they identified themselves as attorneys. Under practice areas, they listed family law, divorce cases, product liability, business, and real estate litigation. They charged for their services.
So in terms of the types of cases they're handling, there's really nothing unique about those, small couple domains of cases in comparison to, say, for example, this Jewish tribunal, the Beit Din of America that I just pulled up here, their website. They're handling a whole lot more types of cases in a lot bigger terms of monetary value as well. And there's really nothing, to mention it in the way she does, which seems to intend to present some kind of a feeling that they're overstepping the legal boundaries of their tribunal. That's in no way accurate. There's other tribunals which are doing a whole lot more than they are, covering a lot more domains in terms of cases they take in, not to mention theirs are legally binding, whereas the Islamic Tribunal is not binding. This is just completely inaccurate. In terms of charging for their services, the Beit Din also charges for their services as well. Right here, $200 filing fee. Here it is. You have fees right here. It's perfectly normal for a religious tribunal to charge for their services. Same thing with the Islamic Tribunal, who also charge their services. So there's really nothing at all unique about anything that she said. It's actually pretty light like a low-fat tribunal, you could say, kind of, right? Like it's not handling a whole lot of cases compared to other tribunals, which are a lot more longer established, have a lot more history in America, and handling a whole lot broader sphere of types of cases that they're taking in.
There was a disclaimer about forming an attorney-client privilege, which, by the way, is still there to this day.
Okay, let's go to the website ourselves here. So this is the IslamicTribunal.org website, using the Wayback Machine to go to the version on 26th of January 2015, which is before actually about a month before that news article even came out. So we know that this is like the original, and that nothing, this is the same one that she was looking at, essentially, okay? Now, there's a couple of issues brought up here. The first thing is that she says they claim to be attorneys, okay? So I looked at the website, and I also looked through over here the new version of the website, the most current version, 2020, which hasn't changed much anyways, but, and I haven't found them claiming to be like, hey, I'm an attorney, like none of these four guys say I'm an attorney anywhere. But apparently what she's talking about is this disclaimer down here, okay? So what does the disclaimer say? It's the same disclaimer as the current version, so nothing has changed, okay? And it says, information you obtain at this site is not, nor is it intended to be legal advice. You should consult an attorney for advice regarding your individual situation. Okay, so they advise people to consult an attorney, and they say that we're not giving legal advice. We invite you to contact us and welcome your calls, letters, electronic mail. Contacting us does not create an attorney-client relationship, okay? This is like standard issue attorney disclaimer, by the way. You go to like any attorney website, this part right here is like, copy-paste, universal everywhere disclaimer. And it says, please do not send any confidential information to us until such time as an attorney-client relationship has been established. So I think that's what she's talking about, is this right here. Until such time as an attorney-client relationship has been established. So they took like a general disclaimer and just copied and pasted it onto their website. And I guess maybe because these guys, I don't mean to in any way disparage them, but none of them I don't think are native English speakers. Not to say anything bad about them, but I get the feeling maybe they overlooked this part and didn't realize what this part is used for, attorneys, essentially. But at no point are they saying, hey, we're attorneys, or we're marketing our services as like attorneys, like fake. That's not at all what's going on. It's just some part of a disclaimer that where they didn't change a term, right? They should say, I don't know, something else, like, arbiter client or something, or so there's some other kind of disclaimer here. This is just really an accident. At no point in anywhere on their website, are they advertising their attorneys or anything like that. Now, the next thing she brings up is that they claim to be judges, okay? Now, they do use the term judges on their website. And the old one and on the new website, it still uses the term judges right here. This is a new website, and it says contact judges right here, right? And they're not judges, and they don't say, hey, we're like on the level of some federal judge or anything like that. They just use the term judges with respect to their tribunal, right? Like this is our, this is who we are. We're like the arbiters at the tribunal, right? Now, in comparison, we can go to the Beit Din of America, which is the Jewish tribunal, a very prominent Jewish tribunal of America. Now, like I said before, Islamic tribunals, they're a new thing. Like this is the first Islamic tribunal in America, okay? Now, Jewish tribunals have a much longer history, and other religions, they have a much longer history in America. They're much more established, right? So you can tell their website is a lot more, it's been built out more and everything, right? So let's compare to the Jewish tribunal. Okay, now they do use the term judges as well, arbitration judges here, down here. They'll talk about how their rulings are legally binding down here, and yet up here they say their rulings are non-binding arbitration firms. So this Islamic tribunal is even lighter than this Jewish tribunal, which is they're doing significantly more with the Jewish tribunal, as I'm getting at here. And over here in the layman's guide, they also use the term judge, right? In Adin Torah, people usually have a dispute, present their case before a panel of 3 judges, generally rabbis, right? At the end, the judges issue a decision, right? And several other places on their website, they use the term judges in the Beit Din of America website. So here again, expert arbitration judges. So when they talk about judges here, right, experienced judges. They're talking about their arbitration judges. They're not saying we're the same level of some federal. At no point do they say that. Has anybody ever understood it that way, except like apparently random people who have no idea what's going on. But people actually involved with this tribunal, and none of them believe these people are on the level of a civil or federal, like a federal judge or anything like that. It's a misconception, and I hope that it's not anything in any way intentional. And another thing too is if you go down here, look at the address. They're established in Dallas, Texas, not in Irving. So I'm kind of curious why Irving is being mentioned here out of nowhere when it's in Dallas. But anyways, let's continue.
Text directly from the website, not my interpretation. Muslim nation faces have to be solved by taking into account jurisprudence and its Sharia law. With this understanding, there is no secularism or detachment from the tenets of faith and all Islamic injunctions in regards to the legal field. Muslims here in America are obligated to find a way to solve conflicts and disputes according to the principles of Islamic law. It is the intention of erecting this institution in order that it will be emulated and duplicated throughout the country. This may be incrementally developed by educating ourselves and also the legal professions in the country. So understandably, it may naturally take time to find its way to be commonly accepted.
So she intentionally quotes it to sound scary here, as if they're trying to Sharia-tize America or something. In reality, it's just a tribunal court just for Muslims to go, just like any other religious tribunal, like Jewish tribunals and so on, to go to. And the reason they're writing this is because they are the first Islamic tribunal, whereas there already exists Christian and Jewish tribunals across the country, right? So they're just coming up to par with other religions in America. There's no some big scary plot to, flip out about and misquote, like what's clearly trying to be used and abused in that certain manner here, which is very incorrect.
Again, not my words. There is also a site, a page on their site that was labeled Our Constitution. In the first sentence of that, the first article, they say the purpose of this court. So while media has attributed and always put in quotes court as if I created it, they refer to themselves on their website as a court, as judges, as lawyers, as following Sharia law.
Okay, so she goes to their constitution and uses it to pull out the term court, right? As if these people are claiming to be something they're not. So let's go ahead and read it. Article 1, the objective of this court, okay, and she just stops there and doesn't read the rest of the sentence, claiming, and she used it in a way to make it sound like they're claiming to be on the level of like a federal court or something, when they're really not. If you read the whole rest of the website and take it all in holistically, in no way anywhere do they claim to be that. But anyways, let's read down the rest of the sentence, which really clears that up if you would have just read the rest of the sentence instead of editorializing, right? Anyways, it says, the objective of this court is to resolve any dispute among Muslims residing in USA while complying with the federal laws of the United States and Texas state laws under the approval of the Texas judicial system. She just read the rest of that, there really wouldn't be an issue, right? And again, if you go to the Dean Torah of America website, the Jewish Tribunal website, they also use the term courts, okay? Understanding what kinds of claims work in the Beit Din. Courts make decisions based on what each party is obligated as a matter of law to do, okay? What is a Dean Torah? A Dean Torah is a Jewish substitute for going to court, all right? And nowhere does the Muslim website or even the people involved in it in any way say that, but okay. Jewish law does not allow one to be a plaintiff in a secular court without first obtaining permission from a Jewish court. Again, they never say that either in the Islamic Tribunal website. They don't say you have to come to us and get our permission first before we can go to a secular court. They don't say that anywhere in this website. And the Islamic Tribunal website, and I invite you to go and check it yourself. And again, I'm not even criticizing the Beit Din America. I mean, they have full rights to practice their tribunal in this way as well. There's no issue with that, and they should be given rights to do so, right? But the point I'm getting at is when you this criticism levied at this Islamic tribunal applies even more so to the Jewish tribunal, yet no one's criticizing the Jewish tribunal, right? These are double standards.
There was an interview shortly after that with a number of the people involved in the tribunal. And they were asked what would happen if there was a conflict between Sharia law and Texas law. And El Badawi said most of the time the laws are in agreement. But when pushed further, he admitted that we follow Sharia law. However, he explained if the parties are not satisfied with the tribunal's decision, they do not have to accept it and they can take the matter to Texas civil courts. He did not say what the social ramifications of rejecting the judge's decisions would be. And he also said, and this is where I have particular concern, he also said there is a difference between how a man and a woman can request a divorce under the system. The husband can request the divorce directly from the tribunal, but the wife must go to an imam who will request the divorce for her. He called it two paths to the same result.
Okay, so again, she starts talking about divorce law and women's rights and all this type of stuff. Well, again, let's compare it to the halakha then. So right here on myjewishlearning.com, you can also look up any other number of websites about the Jewish divorce, right? Here's a question: can a woman initiate Jewish divorce proceedings? The answer in this long article, which I recommend you read on your own in full, is basically summarized right here. Okay, so 1, the husband has to initiate the divorce. 2, the husband has to agree to the divorce. 3, if there's some sort of underlying reason, like the husband is abusive or something like that, then the court can coerce him to give the divorce, such as jailing him and stuff like that. Even that's even apparently happened in Israel, where they jailed a man for not giving a divorce. Whereas if he still does not give the divorce, though, it should be stressed that if the coercion used by the Beit Din or the secular courts on the behest of the Beit Din is not effective to force the husband to participate in the get process, the Beit Din itself can do nothing. Only the man can do the acts required for a valid Jewish divorce. The Jewish court has no more power to declare a man divorced against his will than it does to declare a man married against his will. So actually, Islamic law allows a lot more room than that. And the Islamic Tribunal actually gave women a number of times divorces. And you can go to their website and just click here, cases we handle. They have several specific cases listed, like this one right here, where they did give this lady a divorce. So actually, Islamic law gives women more options to get a divorce than the halakha. Right, the halakha, the Jewish law, requires that the husband give the divorce, and all they can do is try to coerce him to give the divorce. The court can't directly give the woman a divorce. Whereas in Islamic law, including this Islamic Tribunal, they do give the woman the divorce that she asks for. Okay, so in effect, again, you're criticizing this Muslim court for some sort of imaginary, potential, theoretical problem. Right, everything is so theoretical in what they talk about. By the way, like in no way do they ever bring up a specific case or anything like that. But anyways, when you compare it to the halakha, though, the halakha is even more stringent. Again, the criticism here, I would say, is exaggerated and invalid.
Now, as a mayor, I took an oath that I will protect and defend the rights of my constituents that are provided to them by the state laws of Texas and the Constitution. If there is a question in my mind that is not happening in my city, it is my obligation to take action. The action that I took was talking to our state reps to make sure that this type of tribunal was legitimate, that it was following the laws, and that if it wasn't, that we could clarify it with some type of legislation.
So as we've seen and as far as we know, it is legitimate, it is following the laws. So again, where's the issue here? And in terms of protecting the rights of your constituents within your city, first of all, the tribunal is in Dallas anyways, but even if it were in Irving, they do have a right to establish a religious tribunal, just like every other religion pretty much has. There's Jewish tribunals, there's Christian tribunals, other religions have these tribunals, they've had them for a very long time, and now suddenly Muslims have a tribunal and people are inventing, problems out of nowhere.
Representative Rinaldi had been in meetings with me. We've had lots of discussions about this. I have yet to see a mainstream media that actually lists these quotes, that actually talks about what this tribunal had on its own website. And I don't know if there has been any investigation into it. It seems to me that if 4 people were to create a website where they called themselves a court, where they called themselves judges, they called themselves lawyers. They took money for their services, that the state bar would get involved and that they would have questions on it. I haven't seen any action at all. I'm asking you as mayor, help me to get to the bottom of whether or not, and I have no information and I have no facts other than what they put out publicly on their own website.
The first very honest thing that she said is that she has no information other than this public information available on their website, which she even then still misunderstands. So if that's the case, ma'am, why don't you go and speak to the people on the tribunal instead of going and just like trying to enact legislation, all this stuff, when apparently you haven't even spoken to these people yourself yet? That's a pretty good question. Like, you wouldn't go to a court and see an entire ruling being issued without the presence of the defendant, right? You should talk to the defendants, let them present their case, ask them what's going on, right? They're available, they're there, you have their contact info. If you've been to their website, you have their contact info. You simply have chosen not to speak to them, and that's your fault.
I need to get to the bottom and find out, are there people in my community whose rights are not being observed? Are women getting equal rights in this tribunal? Under Sharia law, a woman's testimony is equal to half that of a man's. Under Sharia law, as the imams who are in charge of this tribunal have admitted, women do not have the same rights as men. What are we doing to protect those women in my community and in the state?
So the famous claim that a woman's testimony is only worth half that of a man's, which is very commonly found on Islamophobic websites, which I am sure that she is familiar with. So here is yaqininstitute.org website. I highly recommend visiting this website on your own and reading this particular article, Women in Islamic Law, Examining 5 Prevalent Myths. If you go down to myth number 3 right here, a woman's testimony is worth only half of a man's. They address this myth. There's a couple of lines here that are worth quoting in this video, but I recommend reading the whole article on your own to get an in-depth understanding. But we'll just read this part and some parts after it. So scholars determined that the substitution of 2 women for a man is not universal, but was only intended to be applied in certain areas of the law. While in other areas of law, female testimony may even be deemed superior to male testimony, for example, in matters familiar to women. And the requirement for 2 women in testimony was not applied universally in financial matters either. For example, Muawiyah passed a judgment concerning housing based on the sole testimony of Salama without requiring any corroboration. They talk a little bit about women narrating hadith. If you go further down here at the end, the last paragraph, some scholars have argued that when socio-cultural circumstances differ and a woman's daily activities and practices change, her testimony is equivalent to a man in all circumstances. Also worth reading this last sentence here, skipping down here, that the aforementioned points make clear that regardless of what scholars have deemed to be the proper application of those rulings in our times, they have nothing to do with women being less trustworthy than men. Okay, so I highly recommend reading this whole article on your own and getting into these details. I'll give you one more example here. On the other hand, when it came to legal testimony that was relegated to the private domain, for example, birth, the testimony of one woman was equal to and often more worthy than the testimony of one man, since there was no doubt that a woman was more experienced in that arena. And then Ibn Qudama, in his most famous companion of Islamic jurisprudence, Al-Mughni, explained that in matters of nursing, childbirth, menstruation, chastity, and physical defects, a male witness is not accepted entirely without a single female witness, while a single female witness is. So actually the flip side, it actually flips around in certain issues, where a man's testimony is actually not equivalent to a woman's testimony. In this case, you need a woman to corroborate. Anyways, there's more depth here if you read the whole part of this. There's also an accompanying video that you can read. I highly recommend reading this, at least this section, myth number 3. You can feel free to read the whole article, but at least read myth number 3 to address these misconceptions that the mayor has on the issue.
And I'm going to tell you right now, when you start asking these questions, expect the media to be very forceful and very, very negative against those questions. And my advice to you, let them.
So this is sort of like a reverse psychology, fear-mongering type of thing, blame the media. Well, I think it's pretty well known that the media is Islamophobic and not anti-Islamophobic, to somehow claim that now you're going to be under attack by the media for making all these wild and absurd accusations, which so far we've been proving wrong. I think if you get called ignorant by the media for saying ignorant things, well, you shouldn't really be surprised, should you?
We are here because we took an oath that we're going to protect these people's rights. And if we're not doing that, we're not doing our job. And I'm asking for your support today to help me find out, are all of our citizens' rights being protected, and is everybody getting equal protection under the law? I ended my Facebook quote very simply stating, and I cannot say this enough, that our nation cannot be so overly sensitive in defending other cultures that we stop protecting our own.
So this is like paradoxically ironic, because in both cases you're talking about Muslims. When you talk about defending the rights of other cultures and defending our own, in both cases, when you talk about defending our own, you're talking about the people who go to the tribunal, who are Muslims, by the way. And we talk about defending cultural rights, talking about the rights of the tribunal to exist. So it's just like, this argument just falls apart. It doesn't make any sense, right? To say that she's basically using political doublespeak intentionally here to claim that somehow allowing this tribunal to exist infringes on the rights of non-Muslims or something, or that somehow imaginarily people who've been going to this tribunal have had their rights infringed upon, in which I'm not aware of a single person saying that or coming forth to her saying that. Rather, it's just a bunch of, honestly, look at this panel, a bunch of Caucasians who are criticizing this panel without talking to a single Muslim, or talking to the tribunal, or talking to the people who go to the tribunal, right? And then saying that they need to defend their own from this tribunal, and yet their own are the Muslims going to the tribunal. Like, it's just mind-blowing argument. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
The American Constitution and our guaranteed rights reign supreme in our nation, and may that ever be the case.
And yet, as we've seen firsthand on their website, in no way do they infringe on the Constitution or intend to. Their tribunal was perfectly constitutional, perfectly legal within the United States. In no way does it supersede any court. It's a non-binding arbitration anyway, so you can very easily take their decisions to a court and get them undone. So additionally, the Jewish tribunals, which have a much longer history here, are binding. They do more, and they're still perfectly legal and constitutional. Nobody should disagree with either of them, both the Islamic tribunal or the Jewish tribunal. So with regards to this statement she's making, she's just using like political buzzwords to make people feel like the Constitution is threatened or something, when it isn't in any way.
So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your interest in this. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you for being here today. I'm Representative Tinderell from Arlington, and not a question, but a statement. We're a land of laws, American law. It's pretty simple. I spent time in the military. I spent 21 years, and I've been over there. When these folks come over here, we welcome them with open arms. Pretty simple. We're a land of many diverse backgrounds, and we welcome you. But I said that we're a land of laws and American law, and with every bit of my being, I will fight to defend the law of our country.
Okay, so there's like basically three claims he's making here. So first he begins with this like military ethos argument, right? You know, ethos, pathos, and logos. The ethos arguments are trying to build up your credibility. So he's trying to basically make a claim of credibility that, oh, because I'm a veteran and I've quote unquote been over there. I don't know where there is, but he's apparently a veteran. He's been over somewhere in some Muslim country, and therefore he knows what he's talking about somehow when it comes to an Islamic tribunal. Yeah, I'm also a veteran. I've been to Iraq. I'm an Iraq War veteran. That doesn't mean I know anything about what this topic in any way. I mean, I didn't know anything about Islam or Muslims or the history of these countries or the history of these conflicts in any way whatsoever until I actually started reading after I got back meeting Muslims, talking to Muslims, and studying and learning. I didn't learn anything in the military, and I didn't learn much of anything from my experience in Iraq about Iraq, other than an appreciation for the complexity of it a little bit. But yeah, that ethos argument holds no weight. I mean, when you're over there, like Chris Kyle said in his book, that it's like looking through a straw, right? Like you have no idea what's really going on when you're over there, like in Iraq and stuff. So then two, he makes this argument that we welcome them with open arms, these people, these Muslims, right? We welcome them with open arms, but they just run amok and have no respect for America or its laws, and they just want to like just overthrow everything, like a fifth column, you know, like that argument holds, as we've already seen, that argument holds no weight. Right, like as we've already looked at, they're doing nothing more than what Jews have been doing for many, many decades in America. Actually, they're doing a lot less. So this whole idea that they just run amok and don't respect our laws, we've already refuted that. So I'll move on to point 3, which is the idea that we do welcome them at all, and that they're welcomed. They aren't welcomed. I think it's pretty clear from the Muslim immigration ban under Trump, which happened after this actually, and then the regular mosque threats that have been happening. I suppose it's calmed down a bit now by 2020, but you know, this is in the past several years. Ask anybody who works or volunteers in a mosque, answers the phones. I mean, pretty regularly do mosques get like death threats, phone calls, extremely violent and threatening phone calls, people calling and swearing and just like, you know, extremely violent phone calls pretty regularly. And it was happening even several times a month at some mosques, very regularly. I remember there's even Masjid al-Sahaba, which is like the north side of Fort Worth, had to call the FBI on somebody who made a threat to their mosque. And they went and knocked on that dude's door and stuff. So like, yeah, the whole idea that, so you don't welcome Muslims, your alleged military experience holds no weight here, you still have no idea what you're talking about. And 3, they are fully respecting the laws of America in every way. If only you would, you know, actually welcome them and respect these people, maybe you would talk to them, and if you would talk to them, you would probably understand that they in no way do infringe on American laws. So all 3 of your arguments are basically upside down.
And to the media, this won't make tonight's soundbite. You're at fault. You are half at fault for what's happening in America, specifically with this topic. You need to be more responsible in your actions, because what you're doing is causing chaos and making them think that they can create their own laws in America. And I'm disgusted by it, and it's your fault.
So yeah, the Islamophobic media is indeed creating chaos, as this guy himself and his wild, absurd accusations is as well. The media, it's really strange, you know, like Islamophobes act like the media is somehow now pro-Muslim, when in fact, I mean, statistics show by and large, their articles with the huge numbers, you know, like 1,000 to 1 or something, are very Islamophobic, especially when this is 2015. I mean, the past 5 years, quite a lot has happened, and it's been very Islamophobic. And in terms of the receiving end, Muslims are very clearly on the receiving end of criticism and scrutiny, and not to mention all the people who've been to prison unjustly by the FBI and so on, because the government stipulates that they have, for example, quotas, arrest quotas. Hey, you got to arrest XYZ amount of Muslims, you know. Like, come on, man. You want to talk about chaos? What chaos are you talking about? There's chaos for the Muslims, but you're saying Muslims are creating chaos because the media now supports them? Like, I don't know what world, like alternate reality this dude lives in, but like his entire worldview is like literally backwards. And 2, he claims that they believe they can create their own laws in America. Nobody's creating their own laws in America. Everybody's following the law. Jews are following the law, Muslims are following the law, Christians are following the law. All these tribunals of all these different religions are all following the law. So I don't know what he's talking about, creating their own laws in America. With regards to religious tribunals being allowed to exist in America, yeah, that's a long time thing, long time running here. And then now suddenly Muslims go and do less than what everyone else is doing, and now they're under the lens of scrutiny. You know, if this isn't Islamophobia, then I don't know what to tell you. Then he says he's disgusted by this. Yeah, that's your Islamophobia coming out, dude. You've been programmed by the media you're consuming, this alternative right-wing media that you're consuming, to hate Muslims and be disgusted by Muslims with all of these lies that we've already broken down many of them, but you've been lied to about Muslims, and now you're disgusted by Muslims. That's essentially what you're really saying. What perhaps is a little bit more actually disgusting and realistically disgusting are panels like this, where people sit around and talk about Muslims like they're a bunch of Nazis talking about Jews in 1935. That's what's more concerning and disturbing to me. And then shortly after this, in 2016, 2017, you had Trump supporters and people within the running in the Trump campaign and so on, talking about establishing internment camps for Muslims. Just a year after this, I think. So yeah, I don't know. You talk about what's disgusting. Go look in the mirror.
Yes, Representative Kane.
I'll go and go. As a member of the bar, the State Bar of Texas, I would like to call upon President Tom Vick to investigate this barratry and fake acting as an attorney and holding out as one. It is illegal and should be looked into, and they should look into it and the other places that it's occurring in the state. But I do want to ask you, Beth, can you tell us the kinds of reactions that occurred to you? Were you threatened? Did these people of this religion of peace, were they peaceful to you after you exposed them?
I have had various aggressive messages sent to me. I guess that's probably where I'll leave it. Those messages have been posted in a number of different media.
So first, the guy asks her a loaded question and calls Islam, pejoratively, a quote-unquote religion of peace, and asks her if this so-called religion of peace has been unpeaceful to you. So thanks for the insult there. And then she responds, really ironically here, she responds with saying that, I've received some nasty messages. And it's like, well, yeah, from non-Muslim Islamophobes, not from Muslims. And she says, these messages have been posted on various mediums. I haven't found them. I don't know where they are. But Muslims haven't been going after. It's Islamophobes who think that a Sharia court was established in Irving somehow, based on a fake Islamophobic fake news chain email. So again, why would you twist that to demonize Muslims when Islamophobes are the one doing it? It's just like these people live in some kind of backwards alternate reality where they just reverse reality somehow.
It has not been a pleasant experience, but looking at my background, there's no way that I would change the decision that I made to speak out against this. The purpose of me continuing to speak out is because the media still hasn't gotten it. The PR campaign against this type of action of speaking out is so egregious that I feel I'm put into a position that I have to continuously go out there and put real information and facts out because it's not being covered. It's not easy. But again, I am in a position as mayor, as an elected official, to protect the rights of my constituents. And yes, the reaction was very negative. And yes, I got some threatening emails and phone calls. But it wouldn't change what I did.
Mayor, thank you for being here. I thought it was interesting that you noted for you, this is about equal rights for women. That was interesting.
So another one of those standard, I even kind of say racist arguments that Muslims are a bunch of misogynistic, horrible people, and that we need the white man savior to come give them their rights that they didn't know they had or something, and wish they had, and come on. If you really care about women's rights, well then women should have a right to go to an Islamic tribunal if that's what they want to do. Apparently you're saying they don't have that right. So you're trying to take away women's rights. In that effect, the only difference between the two decisions is one, they have a right to go to an Islamic tribunal, two, they don't. But they can go to any other tribunal. They can go to a Christian tribunal, they can go to a Jewish tribunal, but they can't go to an Islamic tribunal apparently according to you. So in effect, you're actually trying to take away women's rights.
For me, I wanted to ask you, you referenced some material on their website. Where can we get information? Is it possible to get, because I've been told that through some of that stuff has been changed and whatnot.
Yes.
Is it possible to get copies of what they had originally posted?
Yes.
Okay.
We have screenshots of the original posts of the Tribunal when I responded to it. The Tribunal website has changed. It seems to be an organic website, and their services are ever changing. But I have the original screenshots, and anybody who's interested in that.
Where they refer to themselves as judges and
attorneys. Correct.
Thank you.
And granted, you can just go to the Wayback Machine like I already showed you, and you can see the full website even before all of this back in January 2015. You can check out the full website yourself and see that there's really nothing to flip out about, which I recommend doing. So check the video link description for that.
Yes.
Excuse me, Representative Swanson. I just wanted you to comment on the fact that here in the United States of America that you were persecuted for defending basic equal rights for women.
Is that a statement or do you want that?
Okay, so she wasn't persecuted in any way. She was just criticized for making ignorant statements. And two, again, back to that white man savior mentality that these, dark-skinned Muslims need the genius, brilliant white people to come give them their rights because they don't have the moral agency to defend themselves or something like okay, yeah, whatever.
I'd like you to elaborate more on that. I find that a very hypocritical and shocking situation.
It was really shocking. We had a council meeting, and I had some very strong, influential women come down and call me a racist and a bigot and an Islamophobe because I was there specifically speaking out for the equal rights and equal treatment of women under the law. And that to me has always been the priority of my response to this issue. Is when you have a law, you have a type of a legal basis where women are not treated to the same respects and the same rights as men. When you have women whose testimony is equal to half that of a man's. How can you defend that if that is happening in our country?
Okay, so if this were actually about women's rights and not about Islam, then why aren't you bringing up Jewish divorce law, the get, which is far more stringent than Islamic law on divorce? Islamic law is quite liberal on divorce, way more liberal than even American law for most of America, for most of the time period of America's history. It's even easier probably for a woman to go to an Islamic tribunal and get a divorce than to go to a civil court and get a divorce. So this has nothing to do with women's rights. This has to do with a bunch of Islamophobic websites where you guys are getting your information from, a bunch of ignorant Islamophobes sitting around a panel talking about how terrible Muslims are, and no one here has ever talked to a Muslim woman.
And I couldn't, and I spoke out. And as a result, you're right, I have had a number of women tell me that was wrong. And that's okay. I mean, they are welcome to their opinion, but I'm welcome to mine. And my opinion will be that in the United States, women have equal rights, and I'm going to fight for those rights. Yeah.
Amen.
So why do you hold this opinion when Muslim women themselves just don't agree with you, right? Why is your opinion somehow better? Why is your opinion about Muslims somehow more important than Muslims' opinions about themselves, about their own religion? Apparently your opinion about their religion is more important than their own opinion about their own religion. So how do you take a back seat and let people use their own free will and self-determination, the right to self-determination, and let's be a little bit fair in the way we judge religions in this country and check that any criticism you have of Islam and Islamic law, let's go ahead and check halakha and Jewish law and compare the two and see if you're being just and fair or if you're being Islamophobic.
Representative Mike Lang from Granbury. I just want to thank you for your courage and strength, and it's very admirable. Thank you very much.
Representative Matt Rinaldi from Irving.
I know who you are.
I wanted you to talk a minute about before the Irving City Council took up the support for the American Law for American Courts bill. We had a meeting with the leaders of the Islamic Tribunal in Irving. I actually brought them in, and during that meeting, we asked them, would you come out publicly in support of a bill that requires that any law applied in the courts of the United States be in accordance with the United States Constitution? And I remember I had said I think it would be a very good public statement for the leaders of the Islamic Tribunal to come out with us and support the Constitution when they said in the meeting they were supporting the Constitution. Can you talk a little bit about their response?
It was very clear that they were not happy with my Facebook post. And again, that's still up. If anyone wants to see that, let me know. I can send it to you directly. They wanted me at that meeting to issue an apology, a retraction, and to help define what this court was and wasn't. And I said, I can't do that because I'm not defining what it is. I don't know what it is. You are welcome to redefine it, and I would encourage you to do that. And they said, well, your actions have been negatively affecting our community. Because people think that we're now doing something that we're not following American laws, and that we have a Sharia law court. So this bill gave them an opportunity to clarify exactly what this tribunal stood for. And the City Council's response specifically for family law, and I'll quote, a decision based on foreign law, not Sharia law, it's nothing to do with Muslim, didn't even mention Islam, but a decision based on foreign law is void to the extent that the application of the foreign law violates a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution or the statute of the state. If this is what you believe, come down and support it. And I remember you sent them the verbiage, and you were very open. If there is something in particular that you don't like, you let me know and we'll change it. Did you ever get a call?
I did not.
Did you ever get an email?
I did not.
All I know is the day before we voted on a resolution supporting basic fundamental rights, we got a number of emails and a lot of very angry people that came down to the City Council chambers that night and fought us passing a resolution to support this. Now, it made no sense to me. If all of the comments that we heard in that meeting, that they were supportive of basic rights, that they were following American laws, I can't understand why they would have an issue supporting a bill that said we're going to support fundamental laws, and where a foreign law is void that would violate someone's rights, why that would be a wrong thing to support. To me, if you live in this country, that is the minimum of what you should do, is to support basic rights in our country. And we couldn't get that support.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Brandon. I appreciate your coming.
Okay, so this article on the Texas Observer rebuffs this whole argument pretty much on its own. American laws for American courts proposals met with skepticism, right? Some state lawmakers are concerned that American courts may not follow American laws and so on, right? And then on Tuesday, Dan Flynn told the House Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence Committee that many of his constituents believe American liberties are, quote-unquote, under attack by nefarious foreign influencers and need to be assured that American law will continue to be enforced on American soil, right? And so on and so forth. And committee members asked the obvious questions. What's the need for these bills? Isn't it already the case that American courts follow American laws? When has this ever been a problem? And Flynn didn't have any specific examples to share. Religious laws are often used to draw up civil contracts, and many mainstream religious groups have tribunals that issue non-binding rulings on civil disputes. Actually, the Jewish tribunal does have binding arbitration. But anyways, some believe that a mosque or church or synagogue is a more appropriate arena to solve certain disputes than a courtroom. Participation is voluntary, and while a religious court's decision may be referenced in a public court, those decisions do not legally supersede state or federal laws. According to Joshua Houston, an attorney with the Interfaith Advocacy Organization, Texas Impact, in the end, the Constitution, a legal order of authority, trumps all. Flynn said that the bills were supposed to be preemptive to ensure that there aren't any problems down the road. He's worried that without an explicit directive, quote-unquote, activist judges might begin to let foreign laws supersede American laws. All right, and then people start expressing skepticism. He says, the buzzword everyone's talking about is the use of Sharia law in Texas courts. He said, I don't know every judge in Texas, but I know a lot of them, and I have no fear or concern that judges that I know and that I observe doing that, in lieu or in place of the federal constitution or the state constitution. And then Jeff Leach said his bill doesn't target any specific foreign law or religion, and those who claim it's directed at a certain belief system are quote-unquote misguided. The scope of his bill is narrower than Flynn's, applying only to family law, right? Our three bills, however, are derived from model legislation that was specifically designed to be anti-Sharia, commonly known as American Laws for American Courts. The concept is a brainchild of lawyer and anti-Sharia activist David Yerushalmi. It's been passed in several states, most recently in Alabama. According to the Times, the language in these bills is intentionally vague, worded neutrally enough so that they might withstand constitutional scrutiny while still limiting the way courts handle cases involving Muslims. All right. Now they tiptoed around mentioning Islam in particular, but the hearing was tinged with an uncomfortable disrespect for the religion, right? Representative Thompson asked one witness, Sarwat Hussain, president of the San Antonio chapter on CARE, to explain Sharia. When he said that Sharia law is just following the guidance of God, the audience erupted in groans and laughter. Muslims are loyal, law-abiding, and tax-paying citizens, Hussain said. We expect to be treated as equals in society and do not wish to be stigmatized, demonized, or treated like second-class citizens. The extent of the practical implications of legislation is still unclear. Analysts say the laws might affect the way churches can govern their own internal affairs and could also affect adoptions, wills, marriages, and divorces. According to Houston, the vague language in the bills could affect the law in really unpredictable ways. He said he's seen a substitute yet to be finished and given to committee members to Leach's original bill, which refers not only to unconstitutional religious laws, but also to laws that, quote-unquote, violate good morals or, quote-unquote, natural justice, okay? Lots of vagueness that open to anybody's personal interpretation, so they can just take this and attack Islam. All right, and then if we're worried about activist judges going off the reservation, that language actually invites them to do that, Houston said. So you're just opening up the door for to be unconstitutional in reality. Leach said that 1/3 of the House had signed on this bill. That's known to his, as you know, this bill died. And they called this bill a solution in search of a problem. And Clardy said lawmakers should refrain from passing unnecessary laws and said if we don't have a true issue before us, then we need to leave it alone. We have got real issues in this state, Clardy said. So, again, their entire argument is moot. Actually, not moot, sorry. Their entire argument is irrelevant and refuted.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I have one more question.
Did this come from only one mosque, or was there several? Are there several mosques in Irving, or?
We have a number of mosques in Irving, and again, I mean, I know a number of the members in these mosques, and we have great people. We have the most diverse zip code in the country.
Right.
We have an extraordinary community, and what has bothered me is this has an outside of our city, outside of our state. I don't want our city defined by this.
Right.
And yes, there was a number of different mosques all around North Texas. It was not specifically in Irving. We have a great community. And we have all come together and have been stronger as a result of all of the negative press. Because we're loyal to our city and we love it. I just want to make sure that we all realize that this is based on trying to encourage health and love and peace and following our laws. Irving is a great community. It is an honor and a privilege, and it's a very humbling experience to be mayor.
As we've already seen, this is established in Dallas, not in Irving. I don't know it to be attached to any particular mosque. They have their own office. She just happened to be on the receiving end of a bunch of an Islamophobic email chain, and then this is her response. So, well, instead of standing up for truth, you went ahead and rolled with the Islamophobes, and apparently you're confused, or you're just lying, or a little bit of both or something about these people, and you're demonizing the victims, really. So with regards to her now running for Congress, I don't think someone with these qualities is a good person to have anywhere near any position of government. All right, thanks for watching. If I made any errors, feel free to correct me. Go ahead and drop a comment or something like that.